Imagine dedicating more than 2 decades of your life to something and one day realizing that it wasn't what it seemed to be. What happens when the promises that convinced you to join are the same ones that make you want to leave? Today, you're going to hear the story of Helena, a woman who was a Jehovah's Witness for 26 years. What began as a search for comfort after a great loss turned into an exhausting routine, marked by strict rules, relentless demands, and in the end, an unexpected discovery that changed everything. What made you join this religion? What made her question herself? And most importantly, what happens when you decide to leave? Helena was 54 when she decided to tell her story. But to understand her journey, we need to go back in time. It all started when she lost her mother. The pain of the loss was immense, and the promise of resurrection, of a reunion in the future, was like a balm for her soul. She found comfort in Jehovah's Witnesses, who presented a clear vision of a better future, a world without suffering, where the family could live together forever. The message was irresistible. Study after study, she went deeper and deeper until finally she was baptized. But what seemed like a new life full of hope soon turned out to be a maze of rules and demands. The routine was intense, looking after the house, her husband, a small baby, and still devoting herself to the demands of religion. Meetings in the Kingdom Hall, visits, assemblies, and of course, the dreaded monthly report. Officially, the service was voluntary, but in practice, it was an obligation. If you didn't hand it in, there were always questions and pressure. Even in the face of personal or family problems, there was no justification for not fulfilling the tasks. The years went by, and instead of finding peace, Helena felt increasingly overwhelmed. What had seemed like a welcoming community began to show its rigid, inflexible face. The theory that had enchanted her no longer fitted in with everyday practice. There were too many prohibitions: no birthdays, no Christmas, no New Year, no celebrations except for the death of Christ and the anniversary of marriage. For Helena's children, this became a burden. As they grew up, they began to question. What was a lifestyle for her was a prison for them. Her children were the first to realize that something wasn't right. They refused to accompany their mother to the Kingdom Hall and asked her to do more research into the religion. But Helena resisted. For years, she ignored the warnings, trying to keep her faith unshaken. Helena continued to go to the Kingdom Hall, even when her heart was no longer in it. She tried to ignore the restlessness that grew inside her, stifling her doubts with the imposed routine. But her children saw what she refused to see. They insisted, begged, almost pleaded, "Mom, please, you don't have to go anymore. Do some research, see for yourself. This isn't for you." She listened to them, but she couldn't accept it. After all, her whole life revolved around that belief. Did abandoning it mean losing herself? Did it mean betraying years of dedication? So she carried on. But the days became heavy. Each meeting seemed more suffocating. The rules that once seemed like guidelines for a fair life now sounded like chains that limited every step. It was no longer faith, it was fear. It was no longer devotion, it was obligation. Coldness took over, not because she lacked strength, but because that environment, once so familiar, now caused discomfort. Helena realized that she was no longer part of it, but admitting it was difficult. She was drifting away, even though she tried to hold on. Then one day, everything changed. Tired of the demands, the hypocrisy, and the pressure, Helena decided to do what her children had always asked her to do: research. And the truth she found was shocking. If you've been following this story so far, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and comment below on what you think about Jehovah's Witnesses. Your opinion is very important. Helena discovered frightening stories about the organization, stories of abuse, hidden secrets, and questionable practices. The shock was immense, but at the same time, liberating. She finally understood what her children had been trying to warn her about for so long. It was then that Helena made the most difficult decision of her life: to leave. She prepared a letter, arranged a meeting with the elders, and took her son as a witness. In just 15 minutes, everything was settled, and the relief was immediate. It was as if a weight of 100 kilos had been lifted from her back. But her journey didn't end there. On the contrary, it was just the beginning of a new life. Today, looking back, I see how much my life has changed. It's been years of fear, guilt, and uncertainty, but now I finally feel free. It wasn't an easy process, and the pain of breaking up with people I once considered my family is still there, but what I've gained in return is worth every scar left behind. Over time, I've learned to build new bonds, reconnect with my children, and above all, with myself. I discovered that life doesn't have to be limited by rigid rules, and that true love doesn't impose conditions. I found joy in the little things, like celebrating special dates, making plans for the future, and above all, living without constant fear of punishment. Today I am happy. I have peace. I have a voice. And finally, I own my choices. My message to anyone who still feels trapped is simple. There is life outside the walls that surround you. The fear they've placed in you doesn't have to be eternal. Allow yourself to question. Allow yourself to live. And now I want to know, do you know anyone who was a Jehovah's Witness and decided to leave? Share their story in the comments. Oh, and of course, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this.